Hello and good morning. Hope you're all doing well, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. There's a lot of words written on the top. There is Gen AI, there is COE, there is GCC, there is innovation, there is transformation. I think it's interesting to see as a group how we will navigate through this conversation. This is not 𝗀𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗀, but you will get some very valuable tips here, which might make your enterprise very profitable, just like how these gentlemen are currently doing. So welcome. Thank you for your time today. Before I wanted to start the questions, I want to set a little bit of context. So we talk about generation AI, and we look at it from the perspective of how it is permeating our everyday lives. When you look at it from that perspective, and then combine it with a set of entire generation of Gen Z population, imagine the power that is coming to us to transform our lives. And imagine that workforce entering and involving themselves in this construct, and how they will imagine the outcome of everything that we do today. And think about COEs, right? So COEs of the past had a very different construct. They had very linear thought processes, very small in scale. Today, it's a completely different ballgame. The way they are positioned within GCCs and within enterprises has been completely shape-shifted. Let's talk a little bit about the GCC construct as well. And most of us have lived experience building and scaling GCCs. And it is amazing to see how GCCs have become the fulcrum for enterprise growth. And what's more important to know is that GCCs are starting to invest very heavily on the talent side of Gen AI. So with that in mind, I think the context for today's conversation is that we're going to pick the brain of every single person here. And from my conversation during the prep meetings, they have had some amazing journeys. And those journeys are really a reflection of how quickly technology is moving around us, and more importantly, how they are tackling the challenges and the opportunities that is in front of them. All right, so let's start, Bidhan, with you. Bidhan, you have spent a majority of your career at Fidelity, possibly building everything from ground up, right? You have possibly seen every single step of this journey. But I think it's also important for us to articulate how AI strategies and the whole Gen AI ecosystem has changed your view, possibly Fidelity's view, and the industry's view. So would love to hear from you about how AI strategies and the components of AI strategies have significantly shape-shifted to today.
Thanks, Premil, and good morning, everyone. It's a wonderful opportunity to interact with all of you. Yes, I think I have been with Fidelity all through my career, and what I thought I'll answer today to your question, I think my entire career has been in different facets of AI. The word AI is more used today than when I started my career around advanced analytics or data. One thing that I would like to say is, today AI is not a good to have. When I started, I think it was a good to have, or let's get started. So the way to look at it is, when I look at an AI strategy is one of the strategies, but the foundations of business and technology strategy still remains at the core, right? So when I look at a strategy, I think it could have a business strategy, an IT strategy, R&D strategy, cost strategy, and how can AI help all these strategies is where I look at the power of AI. Now, AI is an individual play. I think it goes by, people are saying Gen AI is not alone. I think AI was never supposed to be alone, right? So I think, to me, when I look at AI, the facets of customer experience, the facets of personalization, the facets of automation, including automation, those premises have always remained the same. The goal is, in the last decade and in the last 3-4 years, the data and understanding of data has just gone up. The question is, how can we leverage this insights from data to drive actionable insights so that the boardroom or the strategy makers can bake in more actionable and implementable data-driven decisions to enhance productivity, to kind of make it more realistic rather than saying, let's take a 60% bet or 40% bet, right? So I think when I look at the journey, I think the biggest call out would be with Gen AI. Gen AI is not alone and not sufficient. And I believe it is not just Gen AI. AI was never supposed to be alone, and it has to create its own impact.
Thank you, Bidhan. That was amazing. So you mentioned about actionable decisions, and that's why I'll bring Saswata in. Saswata, you have spent quite a lot of time in the trenches, building out very significant technologies at Philips, right? I wanted to ask you a question. So you see there is a diverse team, right? There's teams, there's technologies. There are also perceptions and challenges which you would have possibly faced. Can you share some of the practical, insights that you have while implementing a strategy like what Bidhan just talked about in real time, where you have to actually go through all of the challenges, hop through obstacles, also at the same time create opportunity?
Thank you. That's a good question, of course. First is having a strategy. So let's get the strategy there. But then there are, like any other big program, the first thing is getting the real senior management buy-in and having them on board. Not too close, not too far. Not too close because sometimes they start talking about Gen AI when they may not understand it fully. And hence, the person or the leader will move to the next shiny object whenever the person gets. So, but you need to keep them apprised, because if they don't sponsor you, then you don't even start. Second part is, or the second point is having the right project or the right method for the right project. So, we are solving a problem. If it requires Gen AI, so be it. If it requires analytics, so be it. But don't put a, you call that phenomenon, right? Don't put a square peg in a round hole. So have the right set of technologies used for the right problem statement that you have. The problem comes first, solution comes last. Third point is have a good business case. Even if the leader leaves, doesn't matter. Business case should pay off in 6 months, 1 year, whatever that is. That is very important because you need to have some quick wins under your belt so that the strategy stays a strategy and gets executed. Fourth one being have the right, whoever is implementing, they need to understand, they need to implement, not technologists. So it's very important. Extremely good communication, over communication is very important, and having the folks who are users, they understand the usability. That is the most important part. Then your strategy will be implemented. Thank you.
Thanks, Saswata. That was very insightful. I think coming from even sponsorship, it's very difficult to get sponsorship, right? Because when you have new technologies, when you have new things happening, combined with market forces that are currently there, I think it gets really, really difficult to kind of get sponsorship. But I think, like you said, the value of that construct has to be clearly laid out, right? So I'm going to move on to Naveen for a bit, because I think from the strategy and implementation, then we were catching up. Naveen, you also talked a lot about the foundational aspects of all of this, right? So many a time when we look at any presentation nowadays has some part which says Gen AI, right, just to make it a little glitzy, right? I think it's more important for us to understand what are the foundational mechanisms. And I mean, you have worked at Wells for more than a decade, I believe, and you're kind of spent your time enabling those foundational technologies to provide very strong support or what other people can build on with the Gen AI construct. So I would love to hear your perspective in terms of how you're shaping those foundational technologies into making sure that the entire construct of Gen AI could be built on top of that.
Thank you so much for the question, and lovely to be here. Good morning, everybody. So when I think about the foundations, I was really ruminating on something. So when the .com thing came up, it was, all the entities, academia and the industries had this .com or .edu. And you see the number of .ais that has come in just tells us something that, so it's not a fad, it's going to stay. So, and when I think about AI and Gen AI is not enough, that's the caption for the day, I really think about it as it's not a sole proprietorship firm, it's a partnership firm. So anything when you think about AI plus Gen AI, there has to be plus something. To give some examples, let's go back 100 years and let's think about one or two groundbreaking innovations that has happened. Somebody discovered the electromagnetic spectrum of radiation, right? And 4 or 5 different frequencies came to life, and whether it's gamma rays, X-rays, and microwaves, and what have you. So the game changed, the life changed with those gadgets. Let's think about another example. Physicists and experimenters mastered gravity, wind, speed, Bernoulli's principle. You know what I'm talking about? Airlines, right? Now it's all commoditized, but think about the 100 years journey. So what these 100-year-old innovations did to us is that we unlocked something. There's a box, there's one lock and one key, we unlocked it, and something magic happened. Let's just think about last 30 years. The same box, but I would argue that we have multiple keys and multiple locks for the same box. Search engines, enormous amount of data, 2002 and plus. Google didn't just do magic just with data, just with computing, just with superior analytics. It was a combination of all of those. Smartphones, we know it. A small gadget that can connect to a tower, can have lat and long, can store music and videos and what have you. Again, there are multiple things that came in that made this gadget live. So my point is that if you think about the spectrum, the journey of innovation, it is getting multi-threaded. So let's fast forward this a little bit. What does AI and Gen AI mean in the future, right? So most of these, when we think about cloud, data engineering, or the math around it, all of this is sort of already commoditized or will be. But the most important point is that we are getting closer to mimicking human intelligence, human emotions. And I have spent quite a bit of time in my dissertation for my PhD around this. And it is fascinating how the cognitive psychology as a field is coming to the forefront. Behavioral psychology, behavioral economics is coming to the forefront to understand our customers, and AI and Gen AI has just become the how piece of it. When I talk about emotions, right? So, typically we say that, hey, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm surprised. But, there are algorithms now which can actually tell you if you're happy. There are actually 9 states of happiness: playful, content, interested, proud, accepted, powerful, peaceful, trusting, and optimistic. You see the possibilities here? And you should just go to the Google and check out this thing called emotion wheel. And a wheel will show about 160 plus states of emotions. Why is this important? Because as Gen AI practitioners, we are looking at corpus of huge amounts of data which customers are expressing, or let's say regulator is asking, and things like that. So it's very important for us to mine it in certain way. A month ago, Microsoft came out something called Spreadsheet LLM. This, my friends, I personally believe this has the biggest game changer, because how many dashboards do we have in our organizations? How much time do we lean on into Excel? And Excel is, you have co-pilots running it. But when you think about the spreadsheet.llm, just because somebody is presenting you a view of a graph and a table, should we consume it? From this time and beyond, we need to start interacting with that. And if there is a need for a table, I will ask for it, or the machine will tell us. And same with the graph, same with the embedded analytics and things like that. So I think I want to close with 2 points. One is the innovation going forward will not be single-threaded, multi-threaded for sure. And a lot of technologies, know-how, and intelligence will converge and become customer-centric. So, thank you.
Thanks, Naveen. That was very insightful. And I'm going to definitely check out that LLM because you can't take away Excel sheets from me. So I love them. So the last point that you talked about emotions, right? And that's possibly where I think I want to kind of ask, Anirban. Anirban, you have led the charge at Rakuten, global conglomerate, has a lot of different type of businesses. You're going to have the conversation about outcomes and experiences, right? And these experiences are shaped by two things. One is how people perceive them, and one, how you're offering those experiences, right? So, where everything is getting accelerated today, right? Like Gen AI adoption, the underlying technologies, strategies are much more, congruent in the way it goes. You as a leader, like you are sitting at the head of the table, right? How would you demonstrate that? How would you make sure that the experience is meaningful to your clients, your stakeholders, and even to your own employees internal to Rakuten?
So, good morning, first of all. 𝗃𝗏 team, I think we all know that you guys are not a event management company, but I think you do a fantabulous job of getting all the thought leaders together. So, thank you once again for getting us all together today. And thank you, Premil, for the question. Let me give you a Rakuten twist to this question, okay? Our vision at Rakuten is to empower people and society with innovation and entrepreneurship. So the word innovation is embedded as part of our DNA. And over the last 2 decades, our AI and Gen AI journey has innovation embedded all throughout the course of it. We try and balance between both the foundation layer as well as the application layer. If you ask me what's the difference between both of them, the foundational is the basic LLM because we are talking about Gen AI right now. And we are only about like 15 to 20% of it. The remaining 80 to 85%, we do it for the applications, which could be the employees, the businesses, and the customers, which drive business impact and the change management through this journey. Now, on the application, on the foundation layer side, obviously we have our own LLM, which is a 7B model, which is Gen AI based, transformer based, right? But I'm sure all of you have experienced that converting a 7B model into a 70B model requires a lot of cost, infra, right? The innovation comes in how we are using something called as mixture of experts to actually make this journey from 7B to 70B. That's one of the examples of adoption and expansion as well. Now, if we talk about the application layer, we always visualize that the application has to be for employees, the businesses, as well as the customers and the consumers that we have. Let me take a few examples from each one of them. First, the employees. How many of you have experienced or played around with enterprise ChatGPT? A quick raise of hands, maybe? Okay. So, as far as my knowledge, it's around $20 per user right now. It started with $60 per user per month, right? So we have utilized OpenGPT framework, which is open source, and have created something called as Rakuten AI for Rakutenians, which costs us $1 per user per month. Okay. It has all the multimodal features of what you can enable or see in enterprise ChatGPT. The funny bit, I'm still amazed, OpenAI has actually reported about this on their own website, saying that Rakuten is doing this, while we are competing against them on the same platform, right? So, but that's one of the examples. Now, this platform in itself has 10,000 people, Rakutenians on them, right? Which means that the adoption and the change management and the applications that each of the Rakutenians can do is far more than the center of excellence that I work on, right? Again, let's talk about business. With the emergence of generative AI, the creative side of AI has become a lot more easier, a lot more democratized, okay? But has the moderation side of AI happened? That is where people need to get involved and moderate, right? But with the use of Gen AI again, that can be moderated pretty well. Now on the customer side, we have a lot of applications around chatbots, IVRs, which are live, which are customer facing. Now, while this is happening, what we need to understand that Rakuten is a conglomerate. If you look at 2 decades back, the world was moving specifically from a retail standpoint from brick and mortars to digital. Now my question today is, 10 years from now, would we actually go to Amazon or a Flipkart or a Meesho to actually go and do an online purchase and do the comparison price through a separate medium? Maybe not. There would be a singular point of entry where the barrier gets broken and everything is on that single point where everything happens simultaneously. While we are doing this, all of this with speed, accuracy, and responsibly as well. Now, we have a responsible AI layer on top of this, which moderates security, threats, observability, and all of that. So, at the end of it, what I want to say is that while we are going through this journey, AI is democratized for the first time. It's not in hands of people like us. It's in the hand of the business people. And our goal is to become an AI empowerment company. And that's why we are slightly deviating while we have our focus on the center of excellence, but we want everybody in the organization to be part of the center of excellence. Having said that, that's Rakuten's way of envisioning or differentiating center of excellence and getting everybody involved in center of excellence. Premil, one question for you while you have been moderating all of us. How can GCCs leverage India's talent pool and navigate challenges like adoption, governance, and change management to scale GenAI COEs while ensuring measurable success and sustainable growth?
Thanks, Anirban. But first, thank you for your answer. I think it's very insightful. And the force multiplier, like, you're working on a COE construct, which is impacting the lives of people beyond just the immediate scope, right? From a GCC perspective, I think I don't want to talk a lot about the talent piece because I think it is evident that all the GCCs that are coming in here today are coming for the talent. And the ability of the Indian workforce, especially the Gen Z workforce, to translate all of this into quick action and outcomes is remarkable and unparalleled. We can't find this anywhere else in the world. But maybe I will talk about 2 other things. One is the change management piece and the governance piece, because governance used to be very linear, right? You used to have a hierarchical org structure and everybody had their own decision rights. I think we have moved away from that construct, right? Now we have very fast, agile teams sitting across geographies, trying to put things together, and we really can't control a lot of that. So it's important to put the guardrails clearly and then let them fly, right? The second thing is on change management and the opportunity that we have, where we definitely feel that traditional models of change management implementations like having PowerPoint presentations and having other things, and I think they don't work anymore, right? I think you have such a different way of looking at it when the consumer, which is the Gen Z workforce, consume everything in bites of less than 2 minutes. If you're going to have 30-minute sessions for those people, they're never going to come along with you in the change. So let's be clear about that, right? So you have to be really careful, especially with AI-enabled decision engines, where you can see things beyond what you can actually currently see on your Excel sheets, right? So, thanks for that, Anirban. But I'm going to go ask Som one question about this. 1 second, let me find out where. All right, so I talked a little bit about GCCs and COEs and how they can see the value, right? You have anchored Anko's AI efforts for quite a bit of time now, and you could see you're in a domain which is rapidly changing and evolving, right? I wanted to know, so for example, your earlier stints with Target, 𝗲𝗏𝗋𝗀, wherever you've been, and currently where you are, you must have seen a very significant departure or the way in how things are changing for you as a leader and how your team, both in terms of understanding how the experimentation part of AI is, but more also in terms of how do you deliver sustained value over an entire longer period of time.
Thanks, Premil. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I think value is a very important question. I'll talk about it from an Anko standpoint. We are very cost and value conscious. So we were not one of those companies which actually jumped on to solving GenAI problems. But today, in the last 1 year, from there to today, we actually have 3 to 4 GenAI solutions actively working for our business. And you will see one of that at 2 p.m. today in the innovation zone. However, the journey that we followed was we actually developed what are the 3 things that we need to do to ensure that we land on that right value. So we built a strategic framework based on capability, governance, and value creation. When I talk about capability, it's really about both developing the internal capability, and Anirban was talking about the infrastructure, so developing the infrastructure as well as how do we create cross-functional squads. And when we talk about external capability, we actually went ahead and built some external partnerships because we realized that it's not possible to scale up, upscale your team, get all the infrastructure and everything on your own, and that's not a good idea always because you want to actually get to the result faster while also ensuring that there's a right balance. So external partnerships are sometimes very important, and we actually found that very valuable. What we also did was we got all the business leaders, including CXOs and tech leaders in a room and went into a 3-day workshop. We made our problem their problem because when we are talking about a solution, we are talking about actual business problem. So they need to tell us that what is that problem that they want to solve for that actually requires a GenAI-based solution. All problems don't require that solution. So once we came out of that, we did a prioritization based on value and feasibility. And when I talk about value, it's really 2 things. One is business need and the other is real dollar value. Not all business needs really give you a dollar value. So for example, if you go to Amazon, Flipkart or whatever today, in any e-commerce website, you will actually probably go to and review a particular customer review summary. Do you go through all the customer comments? I don't think you do today. And if you do not see a customer review summary for a product, you probably get irritated. I do. And that probably doesn't add too much of a value to that e-commerce player, but it adds to a lot of experience for me as a customer. And hence that's a business need, may not be a value generator. However, if you have purchased any apparel, let's say a t-shirt or a shirt in the last 1 month, chances are that it's a GenAI powered design. There's a lot of chance for that. So the point that I'm trying to make is that it's very important that you actually prioritize which are the business problems that you want to solve for that aligns with your goals. In our journey, we learned 2 things. One is, we call it as a POC graveyard. POCs are important, don't get me wrong. However, it's very important that you move from a POC to a scalable solution very soon, because one of the things that we felt is a lot of POCs that let's try that, let's try this, let's try this. It actually leads to a vicious cycle of losing resources, cost and time. So hence we consciously try to stay away from that graveyard, POC graveyard. And the other thing is right now what we have realized is that yes, solving the business problems are important. However, there needs to be a sustainable way of value creation. And what that means is we need to move slowly from a business problem or a use case based solution to a platform based approach. And what is a platform based approach? You have one safety or one risk, one compliance platform. You have one infrastructure so that it can be reused a lot. And that actually gives you a lot of economies of scale. So the idea for sustainable value creation is figure out the top 2 to 3 prioritized use cases, get your business to be on top of it. It's their problem, not your problem. So while you are solving for it, if you are really in it, then invest in a platform, whether you build or buy it, and then go about it. That will actually create that sustainable value path.
Thank you so much, Som. That is really, really insightful. I like the word 𝗶𝗄𝗃 graveyard. I think we need to go find out more about this. So thank you, folks. That's all the time we have for today. So quick wrap up. Thank you for your time. We talked a lot about how AI strategies have changed, the practical implementations of it, what should we do and what should we not do during this whole journey. And we also talked about the experiences and the value of it. I think it's been an amazing conversation. Thank you, gentlemen, for having your time here. And good luck to the rest of the sessions today. Thank you very much.